Good morning to everyone. My name is James Chirnside, presenting to you at the Master Investor Show for 2020. I represent a company called Dart Mining. We're an Australian securities exchange, ASX listed mining exploration company with exploration and mining leases in the northeast of the state of Victoria. We'll just get some quick housekeeping out of the way. In respect to forward-looking statements, cautions. The other point that I'd make on this slide is that all currencies you'll see here are actually in Australian dollars, which is roughly speaking about 50p. Corporate directory, ASX code DTM, we have around 100 million shares on issue, got about 34 million, 35 million options on issue at various strikes between 8 cents up to around 30. Market cap at 19 cents is around $19 million. I'm the chairman and managing director. I have two independent directors on the board with me, and Julie Edwards at the bottom there you can see is our company secretary. She's based in Melbourne. On the management side, we have Steve Groves, who Dart hired back in March to pad out our geological and technical team. He's a senior geologist. He's head of exploration. He's worked previously for large companies like BHP and Newmont, and he's helping us roll out a fairly ambitious exploration strategy as we speak. Ben Hines and Dean Turnbull, again, both geologists, and we have a manager of finance and administration. Summary update for this year, and I presented last year at the Master Investor Show in March, April, I think it was. And since then, Dart's been pretty busy at work. We've done a lot of drilling, which I'll go through with you shortly. We've also managed to accumulate additional lease areas, which we think are prospective, amongst other things, for base metals, but also gold and silver. We recently completed successfully a $5 million raise, which will see Dart fully funded for drilling for at least the next 18 months or 2 years. We, as I mentioned earlier, started a drilling program, quite an ambitious drilling program, back at the end of August. And we are continuing with that as we speak. We'll probably shut down operations at the end of next week for a break over Christmas, New Year, and get stuck back into it in the new year. The drilling the projects that we've drilled thus far are what we call our Buckland Gold Project, Sandy Creek Gold Project, Granite Flat Copper Gold, and also Rushworth, which is again a historical gold property that we've got in central northern Victoria. We recently applied for around 1,500 square kilometres in exploration lease applications. The prospectivity of that ground is essentially zinc and other base metals. There is certainly prospectivity there also for precious metals. Recently, we've only had one set of results back from our recent drilling program at the Buckland Gold Project. There is a bit of a rush going on in Australia, and particularly in Victoria at the moment, and the laboratories for the assay laboratories are all pretty backed up, such that we've gone from around a 2-week turnaround on samples and results to around 8 weeks at present. So it's not ideal, but what it does mean is that we've got probably 4,000 or 5,000 assay samples yet to be reported back to us. They are samples that have been submitted. So we've got a large quantity of assay results pending, which I expect will put out through ASX releases over the next couple of months. It's been difficult for everyone, obviously with COVID. We took fairly aggressive action to ensure that we were going to be able to continue to operate through the COVID period. That meant becoming what's called over here a COVID-safe workplace, involving certain protocols, etc. We've also we purchased a container camp for our drill crews and geo crews, and we're operating in an isolated location away from metropolitan areas and other areas of COVID spread. Just to give you a big picture setting on DART, we have, it was originally established to explore and exploit historic goldfields. Now, many of you may know that in the 19th and 20th centuries, early 20th century, there was a lot of gold extracted from Victoria, the state of Victoria. Around 3% of all the world's gold that's ever been produced has come out of Victoria State. People may be familiar with places like Bendigo and Ballarat, but there were numerous other areas, particularly up in the northeast where we operate, that also have significant gold production numbers from that period. What's drawn a lot of, as I mentioned before, there is a big rush going on in Victoria at the moment. And what's drawn attention to Victoria particularly is the enormous success experienced by Kirkland Lake, who are a Canadian listed company, at their Fosterville mine, as well as the recommissioning of the Stawell Gold mine. Both of those mines are ramping up production. Kirkland Lake's Fosterville mine was rated the highest grade recoveries of any gold mine in the world last year. They're producing around 600 to 700,000 ounces per annum. To put that into perspective, I think the largest gold mine in North America produces around 700,000 ounces. So it's no wonder that people are interested in that mine, particularly in that gold system. And that's what's attracted an enormous amount of interest from overseas, mainly. A lot of it out of Canada, some out of the UK, back into Victoria. Victoria has not been properly explored using contemporary methods for a long, long time. And to that extent, it is seen as highly prospective for further significant gold discovery. The $8 and US dollar gold prices have driven that interest as well. They've been at elevated prices. I note right at the moment they're a bit soft, but in this era of money printing and central bank quantitative easing, etc., it's hard to imagine how gold is going to suffer any kind of big decline. Some of the sort of margins that are being experienced by gold producers at the moment are absolutely fabulous. They are with, you know, an all-in sustaining cost average price of production in Australia at around $900 an ounce, and selling that in Australian dollars at around $2,700. You can see that the margins are fantastic. And that, of course, has led to a further release of capital into the space, such that in the exploration game at the moment, there is an enormous amount of capital flowing in. So DART, just to cap that off, DART holds around 6,000 square kilometres of exploration ground in the northeast, eastern and central Victoria. Within that, there are a number of high quality lode-style gold projects, porphyry copper, porphyry molybdenum, and silver. On top of that, DART has quite significant lithium and rare earth element targets to explore as we go forward. So the regional setting, just going down the left-hand side, within our footprint, within our exploration leases, Dart holds 9 historic gold fields. A gold field is made up of multiple mines, which in turn are typically made up of multiple workings. So we've got a very good footprint. We know there's gold in these places. They've been historically worked, and we're now getting about proving up resources in some of these, and I'll go into detail on that in a minute. In 2008, Dart Mining discovered the Mount Unicorn molybdenum porphyry. Porphyries had not been discovered up in that part of, or in the northeast of Victoria before. It actually has led to a reinterpretation of some of the country rock within the area. And for those who are geologically minded, that is a very significant thing. So essentially what it's saying is with the Mount Unicorn discovery, we then went on to discover a further 6 porphyries. We've no doubt that there are more that remain undiscovered, and we're doing some work around that at the moment as well. Dart discovered the first hard rock lithium on the east coast of Australia. West Australia is particularly well known for its lithium production, but there was nothing on the east coast. So we've discovered within a corridor of around 60 kilometres by 15 wide, around 3,000 LCT, which is lithium, cesium, tantalum, pegmatite dikes. So the pegmatite dikes carry the lithium. The LCT type pegmatite is the one that you're after if you want lithium. And again, we still need to do quite a bit more work on that. Lithium is starting to pick up in terms of price, having spent a couple of years in a bit of a winter, a bit of a hibernation. In fact, prices for lithium carbonate have been quite soft over that period. So there are signs that that's about to change, that it's picking up. Some lithium stocks have already run ahead of that, and Dart will continue to do its groundwork on our pegmatites there as we go forward. Amongst those pegmatites also, it should be noted that we have had significant tin and tantalum hits in some of our chipping and drilling, and further explains the idea that the northeast of Victoria is polymetallic. So Dart is not necessarily a one-trick pony, so to speak. We're not simply looking at one exploration project with, one metal that we're chasing. There's a whole raft of different metals. So in terms of exploration projects that we're currently working on, this way we've got them divided up at the moment. That's fairly self-explanatory. The map on the right-hand side gives you a sense of Dart's footprint. On the top illustration, or in the bottom illustration there is the state of Victoria within an Australian context. The larger diagram gives you an idea of how large and how spread out some of our exploration ground is in the northeast of Victoria. But just summarising again, Dart's exploration strategy, if you like, is split between 3 areas, one being gold prospectivity, which is what we're working on right now intensely. Porphyry prospects, we've identified 7 porphyry targets within our footprint. All of those are outcropping at surface, which is slightly unusual, a bit different. It's rare that you find them porphyry projects outcropping at surface. Normally they're found undercover. And the lithium, which I've already just discussed. So the Buckland Gold Project is probably our flagship project at the moment. We've just completed a 1,000 metre drilling program on that, which I'll get to in a moment. But it sits within a corridor, if you like, of which you can see on that map there, the black circle. That corridor historically has produced around 7 million ounces, and most of that is historic production. There's no contemporary production in that area at all of any significance. So it's obviously a it's a hot area for gold. The Buckland Gold Project is just down on the, you can see it about almost in the centre of the diagram of the map. And I'll get to more of a description on that. But to put it into, to give you a sense of the size and prospectivity, we're talking about it's a what we call a stacked shear zone. Within that zone, we've got 17.5 kilometres of identified mineralisation that's identified at surface. We have been drilling there, we've drilled, and we know that the project is going to, that the gold is going to depth down to around 260 metres. I think we've drilled historically, which shows mineralisation. It has broad zones of, so there's high grade gold within this project, high grade pods of gold, but probably more importantly, we have a thing called disseminated gold. It's what they call the halo effect in geology, where it's invisible gold, it's nevertheless there, and we're looking at literally hundreds of millions of tons of it. So we need to drill it out further, and that's what we're doing right now. We need to understand how wide along that strike of 17.5 kilometres that the mineralisation is occurring, and we need to try and hone in on some of the more high grade stuff. So the Buckland Gold Project, this diagram here really just shows you a lot of the surface sampling that DART's undertaken over the last 2 years. You can see that white line to the northwest, pointing that shows you the extent of the strike. Worth pointing out too that actually to the south, the mineralisation remains open. In other words, we haven't closed it off. We haven't got any further than the 17.5 kilometres, and we're still finding mineralisation. So the scale is very large. We've taken over 7,000 surface samples there. We've done extensive drilling in a program in 2008, again in 2014, and literally a couple of months ago, we completed a further 1,000 metres. We expect to go back to the Buckland Gold Project early in the new year and continue with that drilling. That gives you an idea of the mineralisation itself. We delineate between two styles of mineralisation. One is what we call type A. That's a typical high grade quartz veining style. And then we have that's type A, and then a type B, which you can see the bottom left-hand corner, is just the sheared sediment. And there is gold contained within that, albeit invisible. And that represents probably the prize for us because of the significant apparent tonnage that we're looking at there. So rock chip samples that have been taken around the Buckland Gold Project, and particularly what we call the Fairleys prospect within the Buckland Gold Project, 60 grams a tonne grab samples. You can see those down the left-hand side. So what it's really showing you is that there is some really good high-grade gold there. There is also some significant, much lower grade, but significant tonnage, halo style or type B mineralisation. This gives you a recent drilling highlights. As I said, we completed 18 holes. It was around 1,000 metres in total that was drilled. And this was a bit of a first pass drilling program. We had 13 metres at 4.82, 11 metres at 2.64, and so on down the left-hand side. They're all very, very good grades from our perspective. Kind of proved quite a lot about the concept that we have for this project, and we just need to do some more drilling and understand it, but we're very excited about it. Our second project, which we've been drilling just recently, is what we suspect to be a porphyry deposit. It's interesting in that there is lode style gold there as well, with what we call a porphyry overprint. The porphyry deposits are fantastic generally because of the tonnage. Even though you might have very low grade, you've got enough tonnage to achieve tremendous economies of scale. And this slide shows you some of the rock. You can see the copper, which is represented in the green, carried in some of that rock. The diagram at the bottom of the page gives you an idea of the area where we're working right now, 3.5 k's by 1.5. The green or the lighter areas within that are what we call the hotspots, and we've done some significant surface sampling there, and we've just begun a contemporary, for want of a better word, drilling program. The project was drilled back in the 80s and early 90s by CRA, who are now Rio Tinto, and also Perseverance, who at one stage owned the Fosterville mine. There was a lot of drilling done, but at that time, the price for various commodities, including copper and gold, weren't that great, and so they abandoned it. DART had coveted this lease ground for since inception, which was 2003. And it was only in 2016 that we were able to get hold of this ground, and it was granted about a year and a half later. So we're working quite intensely on this project right at the moment. It has tremendous potential. Sandy Creek is another gold project, gold and antimony, funnily enough. We completed, well, you can see at the bottom of the chart there, 993 metres of RAB drilling. This project was, I guess, renowned for its extremely high-grade ore back in the day, and we're talking around between 1880 and 1920. There were various mines that were in operation up at Sandy Creek. There was a reported rock chip which delivered 3,500 grams per tonne, 3.5 kilos per tonne. Obviously, that'll be extremely rare, but we do have very high hopes. And from what we've seen so far from the drilling, Sandy Creek looks like a project which we need to do a lot more work on. It's very, very interesting and highly prospective. Just continuing with Sandy Creek, those Ellis Antimony, the Shamrock, O'Dells, Wildcat, Morningstar, Honeysuckle and IXL, they're all historic mines within the Sandy Creek project area. As I said before, there was some extremely good high-grade gold taken out of there. But in this day and age, you really need not only high grade, but you need tonnes. Tonnes is really the key to developing a gold mine these days, because with tonnes you can achieve economies of scale. So as much as the high grade gold is extremely exciting, it's really more about what you can get average over an area, not just simply the high grade. Rushworth is a project which we've, again, in fact, they finished drilling there 2 days ago. Not 2 days ago, but about a week ago by the time you see this anyway. And it is in central Victoria. It's a different style of ore to the stuff which I've just been through. It's more nuggety. It's more traditional Bendigo Ballarat style mineralisation. You can see on that map there, that is DART's Rushworth Project, sitting right within, we're surrounded by other companies, including Newmont, Nagambie Resources, and also Chalice Gold. You can also see that just over to the left, we're about 45 kilometres as the crow flies from the Fosterville mine. Now, it is of similar geology to the Fosterville area or mine. It's a historic gold field, and we've literally just finished doing a first pass drilling program, still awaiting results. So we'll be reporting those as they come back over the next couple of months. I've spoken about porphyries, and I know that we're running short on time, but you can see there a brief description of the 7 porphyry deposits that DART has identified within its tenement footprint, and we intend to take all of these forward a bit next year, mainly with some geophysical work, some soil sampling, geochemistry work, and then, well, in the case of Granite Flat, we've started drilling there already. Tenement status, that just shows you, gives you an idea of all of our tenements. There are a number of those that appear to be EL application. There's, I think, 4 of those are going to be granted, we hope, before Christmas, and then we expect to get the others probably over the next 12 months. But those that we have had granted, include exploration licenses, we're working hard on, and we'd expect to see a lot of the other applications processed very shortly. That's all I've got. I thank you very much for watching this. Dart Mining is a small company. We're highly speculative, I suppose, certainly at the speculative end of the market, but we're tremendously confident in the footprint that we've got, in the projects that we're currently working up, and indeed other ground that we've applied for but not yet done any exploration work. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the Master Investor Show.